Good afternoon, everybody. I can't believe it's Thursday again. So many things going on this week. And I'm sure my colleagues have got several horror stories they'd like to share with you. I don't even know where to start. Actually, Nadia, Catherine, who would like to go first?
I'll start. So I want to bring something up that we have spoken about a lot before. Letting employees go while they're off sick. Okay, I realize that this time of the year is incredibly frustrating for the majority of our clients when they have someone off sick. It's always frustrating because it always has an impact on the operations. But golf clubs and leisure businesses, hotels, that kind of thing, you guys are all really struggling in summer if you have an employee who is just off sick, especially if you're not really sure they are really sick. And we have quite a few of these ongoing at the moment. We will always say to you that it is bad practice to dismiss someone while they are off sick. Even if they're in their probation, even if they're under a year, even if they have no protected characteristics, it's still bad practice. But if they have protected characteristics, or if they are off with something that is considered a protected characteristic, like anxiety and depression, the specific case that we're dealing with, the risk of letting that person go because they are off sick with anxiety and depression and they have been for 6 weeks and it's summer and you need someone to work in the kitchen, that is a recipe for disaster. You are going to get sued. And at the end of the day, I had to be quite straight with the client about this. And I was like, you will likely be sued by this person if you do this. You can hire 0-hour people to cover. You can offer fixed-term contracts to people as cover. You cannot replace someone while they're off sick. But absolutely, you cannot take the risk. Oh, you can if you want to, but we will not help you with that. But you shouldn't take the risk of terminating someone who is currently off sick with something that can be considered a protected characteristic. You also can't sack them the day they come back, because then the only thing that happened before you sacked them was that they were off sick with something that is a protected characteristic. So you're going to end up in the same boat. You're just going to have to do a little bit of work once that person returns to work, and to either ensure that they stay in work or to deal with them and terminate their employment in the correct way. Whether that is for conduct or disciplinary or performance or whatever it is. But you cannot sack someone for being sick. You just can't. You can't. Especially if it's not, if we're talking about someone who's been with you for 18 months and they have lots of short-term absences and they're off every other week for a day or two, and it's not stuff that's connected and there's no underlying health conditions, sure, then we can start to look at dealing with it through terminating and that kind of thing. But for someone who's been off for 5 or 6 weeks with some mental health issue, you're just asking for trouble. So if you have a situation like that, we understand. We really do. Catherine and I both worked in hotels before when we were younger in our HR careers. We understand the frustration that you are going through in staffing and the impact an absence like this has on your team, especially if that person then goes on holiday. Extra annoying, right? But just talk to us. We will take the frustration and the emotion out of it for you, and we will tell you what you can do, what you can't do, and what you can get away with. So talk to us.
Yeah,
that's my bit.
No, that's good. So the thing I have today, actually, there's health and safety and accidents at work. So there's been a couple of things this week. We were involved in a big disciplinary, which thankfully we didn't have to be involved with because they got a settlement agreement. But I was going to be doing the disciplinary, and I saw the pictures of the greenkeeper shed. And I'm going to say we've also, in other circumstances, seen pictures of health and safety and food hygiene infringements in kitchens. And it is, you look at them and you're like, how? I appreciate that the head chef's supposed to be responsible for this, or the head greenkeeper, but everybody can see how awful this looks. And nobody, not the general manager, not the committee, nobody has done anything. The greenkeepers shed that we're looking at, they said they used to call it, oh, it's like the Steptoe yard from Steptoe and Son, so like a scrap metal yard. It's like, you do know it's not supposed to be like that. Why are you tolerating this? Why was the head greenkeeper not up on a disciplinary about this much, much earlier? I mean, this has been going on for years. You look at it and it's like, nobody should be made to work in that environment. Why they're suddenly going, oh yeah, and by the way, he did health and safety badly. It's like, yes, for years, and you tolerated it. I mean, you'd have, I mean, there were other things wrong, but you know, you would justifiably have a defense of saying, well, you could see it and you didn't tell me it was wrong. I mean, obviously he's in charge, but you're like, why do you not do that? It's very strange. And with food hygiene, so I'm just saying, keep on top of health and safety. Keep on top of the department managers who are supposed to be doing health and safety. Make sure they got the risk assessments. We have a new client who's come on board because they have a potential personal injury claim from a greenkeeper who was lone working, said he injured his back while moving a divot box. Okay, now we don't think that's true. Okay, but he's off at the moment. And first thing first, any accident at work, if it's a major thing, they've lost limbs and everything, you absolutely have to report it straight away. It says on, and if you Google RIDDOR, RIDDOR, you'll come up on the health and safety website. It will tell you exactly what things need to be reported as injuries. And it's always the horrible stuff. But also if they are off work for more than 7 calendar days. And that's what this person has. He's got a bad back and he might have a slip disc. So you've got to report it. But you also, if somebody's off with an accident at work, you need to tell your insurance company, because if there's a personal injury claim, they will then take over fighting that on your behalf. Okay, so as part of that, I then went and said, right, okay, so the person is now claiming that he should have full sick pay because he never had an induction. He's been there since September last year. He never had an induction, wasn't told how to do stuff, so therefore he should get full sick pay, i.e., otherwise I'll sue you. And so I'm like, okay, so what have we got of risk assessments? What have we got as induction? What have we got as health and safety training? Have we got him signing off on anything? Nothing. Nothing has been signed off on anything. There's nothing to sign off on. The head greenkeeper hasn't got anything in place. Again, he's supposed to be in charge of this. Admittedly, the general manager is new, which is why he's like, oh my goodness, this is awful. And I'm like, well, have you got this? And apparently the head greenkeeper's running around saying, yeah, but if I gave him this piece of paper, he's written yes on it. Does that count? I'm like, well, I'd have to see the piece of paper that he's written yes on. I mean, and it's just really scary. These are high risk places. These are not office environments, which can be as dangerous as anything else, but these are high risk with chemicals and major machinery, and the people in charge are not paying attention, and it's just being tolerated, I guess, because people say, oh well, they must have done it because nobody's died yet. That's sort of a hygiene factor. It shouldn't be anybody dying, there shouldn't be any accidents, but you have to make sure you've got everything in place. And if it doesn't get put in place, that is a disciplinary offence. And that's when most clubs go, oh, I don't really want to be nasty to the head greenkeeper because he's been here for 20 years. 20 years of not doing his job properly. So maybe we do need to be doing restructuring to change the department outside of season, obviously, sort of September, October time. Or we need to be doing disciplinaries and settlement agreements. So you just it's just there's so much recently about health and safety not being done properly, and it being tolerated because there's no obvious accident. This is the problem with this one where the guy has allegedly hurt his back. The insurance company is going to be really annoyed with the club, and their premium is going to go through the roof because they have no paperwork in place to defend their case. So yeah, obviously the solicitors, as always, will write horrible emails and blah, 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 and come to some sort of agreement. But going forward, obviously got to get it sorted out, but their premium's going to go through the roof at renewal because they didn't have anything in place for this case now. So try and get it sorted out before you have an issue, not once you have an issue. That's what I'd say.
For me, not me personally, is one of our clubs has received a ACAS notification that one of their contractors is suing them for pregnancy discrimination. And she is claiming that she's not a contractor, she's in fact an employee because of the way they've treated her. So again, I just want to remind you, someone who's not genuinely self-employed will be classed as an employee. So just some key bits of information here. Sorry, it's postman, so you might hear a dog in the background. So if they are self-employed, they are responsible for how and when they work. They invoice you. They're not on your payroll. They invoice you. That's how they're paid. They're able to work with other clients and charge different fees for other clients. And they're able to send someone else if they can't do the work, for if they're, holiday or sick. That is someone who's self-employed. They are not going to be genuinely self-employed if you choose when or where they work. So if you said you have to base yourself at the club, you're already, can't do that. If you start telling them how much holiday they're allowed to take, when they can take it and paying them for it, they are not self-employed. If you give them instructions on how to do their work, we need it done this, we need this spreadsheet, you shouldn't be doing that. You contract them for services and they need to give you the result of that service, not how it works. If you provide their work equipment, again, very grey area on if they're self-employed, they should have everything they need to do the work they need to do for you. And again, if they get pay slips, they're on your payroll instead of being invoiced. Now, we were fairly comfortable that this employee was self-employed, but I'm going to delve a bit deeper because I do get the feeling that the club perhaps intervened in that she had to work at a certain time from the club in certain ways. So yes, they're now facing a pregnancy discrimination claim. What I will say is, although she may not be genuinely self-employed, we will try and argue that, someone who is self-employed, they don't get protection from, your unfair dismissal or your constructive. They are still covered for health and safety and discrimination. So always remember that they can still actually sue you for those two things, even though they are genuinely self-employed. They're covered by health and safety law and the Equality Act still. So yes, I will keep you updated. There must be a massive backlog at ACAS. She submitted her claim on the 4th of June and we've only just been told about it. Now there's 6 weeks conciliation, which means that period is already gone. So they're going to be getting the tribunal letter invite through the post any day now, which is very frustrating. But that is how ACAS work, unfortunately. There's obviously a lot going on at ACAS. So we will keep you updated. They are going to find out how much she wants in compensation. And then it's a conversation with the club on what they want to do, really. So I'll keep you updated.
Great, thank you. Dawn, Lorraine, have you got any questions? Dawn does.
Yeah, sadly, a few weeks ago, our maintenance manager died, not at work.
Okay.
And he's got a young son who's 20, who's dealing with obviously everything. We've just processed his final pay, and I just don't know whether it's so. The manager wanted to just send his copy of his pay slip to him, and I'm like, can we do that? Is that a breach of GDPR? He's dead. Is it just helpful for his son? I'm not quite sure. Do we just say it's been processed, or do we send him a copy, or do we put a copy in the post, or do we leave it?
So the first thing to do is to ask his son for the probate details of where you need to send this to, because his final salary will go into his bank account and his bank accounts will be frozen because of the probate process and whoever is handling it. So actually the best thing to do is to contact the son and to say, can you give us the details of who's handling your dad's estate? It would usually be a solicitor or something along those lines, and he will give you a contact of where to send that to. That's usually the way it works. And
So
will
is
be
that the employer's responsibility to always do that? Is to like send a pay slip to the people that are doing the probate, or do nothing?
not
going to go in there anyway.
Not necessarily. So in some cases, he might say, "That's fine. Send it to me. I am getting everything together for the estate." In which case, it's fine because you have permission to do that. But it is always good to ask, because in most cases, he will just say to you, "You can send it here."
Okay.
But I think your point as well, Dawn, is not just to send the pay slip, but to send it with an accompanying letter saying, again, really sorry for your loss. Let us know if we can help in any way. And,
I mean, we've done all that support thing, and we're going to do his wake for him and everything, you know.
Right. Okay.
Know, we've done a lot of support.
So something nice again with it, but it doesn't have to be a long thing. But not just the pay slip, but just a little note with it. Yeah. Exactly.
Sure.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay. Lorraine, have you got a question today, or is everybody behaving? Everybody's behaving. Good. Okay. Yes, we had unfortunately, sorry.
No, all good. Thank you.
Long may it continue. That's good. We had in another golf club, unfortunately, now you raised it, Dawn, that the head greenkeeper was doing some work alone on the course on the Sunday, and they found him the next morning. So, yes, and his son, so everybody was very upset about all of that. And his son was also one of the greenkeepers, so was involved. And yes, it's all got, it's just very traumatic. Like you say, it's bad enough when somebody dies outside of work, but when they're actually dying at work, that's so it's going to be an autopsy and everything as well to work out what it was, because there was a potential there. He was wearing a scarf, and apparently that scarf had got caught in the machinery that he was on. Now they don't think he was sort of strangled by it, but that might have given him the heart attack, thinking he was going to be strangled. But it had stopped. The machinery had stopped, so it wasn't that it kept going and even worse than normal. But so obviously it stopped. He managed to stop it, but was trying to free himself, and maybe that's when. But again, they've got to do an autopsy, so it's not even just a straightforward. That sounds awful, but a straightforward. Oh my goodness, and dead. It was possibly an accident as well. So it's again, they need that club is now looking at their lone working of sort of guidelines. I'm not sure that they ever had them, and it sounds awful, but whether the head greenkeeper was actually following the own guidelines. Are you supposed to be out there? Are you supposed to have a scarf on? What does a risk assessment? I mean, it's not likely, but it is possible that the company, the family, could come back and say, actually, you didn't take due care and attention by letting this person go out. So they need to they're having in this horrible situation to make sure that their health and safety is valid to defend themselves in case there is a claim. So there you go. The other thing I wanted to share on a slightly lighter note, before we finish, is that we're recruiting because Catherine's going to be going off on maternity for a year. Yay!
Maybe not a year, we'll see. 2 weeks. I'm coming back.
2 weeks, yeah, gosh. So we've got Amy, who's on holiday this week. She's in full-time. That's great. And we're looking for another full-time person. So we have our recruitment process where they apply. I'm going to say Indeed is working really well for us this time round. We occasionally do recruitment, but lots of qualified people through Indeed. And what everybody has to do who works in HR and lives within an hour of the office, because they do have to come into the office, is an employment law quiz. Now, I think I've spoken about this before. And we are getting people who are doing really well on that this time round. Last time, they were getting 3 out of 10 more regularly. Now they're getting 8 or 9 out of 10, which is great. And then the next step is they do a timed inbox exercise where we send them 4 case studies in half an hour. They tell us what half an hour it is so that they're undisturbed, and then they have to answer them. And today it's just so funny. It's going to turn into a blog. We got our first person who tried to cheat by using ChatGPT. It was just unbelievable. You're reading it through. It's like, one, you haven't even answered the question, to the extent that I even went and put our question into ChatGPT to go, what does chat? So they obviously use a different AI, or they ask a slightly different question, because if you put our actual question into ChatGPT, the answer is not awful, actually, and it's a much more succinct than what they've put in their one. But the thing with all of these things, AI, it's a tool. You can't just copy and paste it. So it has which is a dead giveaway, because I do some of my blogs, I start them on ChatGPT and then I tweak them into, real language. Is it says to comply with UK employment law. It's like, well, of course, we're in the UK. We're talking about UK companies. Why would you need to mention UK employment law? Unless, of course, you were an AI machine that didn't understand where we were. And it's like, and when I put it in that one, make sure you refer to UK employment law. And it's got it in. So 3 of the answers she has obviously put onto an AI answering thing. I mean, it's just, and they're not answering the question. They're just telling you what the process is. We want to dismiss somebody, and it's just ridiculous. And then the last one, she's actually answered herself, but still not answered, about putting people on holiday, that you have the right as an employer to put somebody on holiday. But she's not even said that. She just said, explain to them that they should take their holiday. And if they don't want to, what do you do? So she'd actually answered the last one herself, absolutely fine. But all the others, it's like, that is so, you are not relevant. Even if you could have used the AI machine to answer the questions properly, that would have been a skill. We would have given you credit for that. Maybe slightly less credit than answering it yourself, but if you can't even see that that what's been answered is not relevant to the question, we can't use you. So,
or the font was the giveaway for me. The font literally changed mid-sentence. And then all the bullet points are in that font, and then the ending where it says, where she had written, was back in the original font. And it's like, we do investigations for a living. Like, that's not good.
And she also didn't just type from whatever answer AI has given her the useful bits. She's also put all the non-useful bits, like the headings and things in, and we're like, no, nobody writes like.
So, but it was just interesting. It's like, okay. I think I will go and do ChatGPT answers to all of our questions, so that if anybody gets better at it, we can go, okay, this is what ChatGPT answered when we did it. Oh, I can see some similarities there. Yes, that'd be good. So I just thought it's interesting. They do talk about using AI for recruitment, and it's usually that the employers are using AI to get rid of candidates. We've now got it the other way around. That's really, really quite impressive. So I just wanted to share that bit with you as well. So good. Otherwise, next week we are going to be doing about sickness, dealing with sickness absence at work, with the current rules and with the proposed rules to come in, so that you've got an idea of how to deal with it. But short-term and long-term sickness absence next week. So it's going to be a longer session, probably an hour. It will be recorded as usual, so if you can't stay the whole time, that's fine. And we're always welcome to have any of your senior management team attend as well, if you feel that they could benefit from it. Okay. Otherwise, have a lovely weekend, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Thanks for watching. If you want a free tribunal audit of your employment contract and handbook, click the link in the description below.